I wanted to watch this video. This is Legendary Drops. I've watched a couple of his
Marvel
videos
Rivals
because of
is a
Amazon.
threat, and I don't think people
Asmon
really
Gold.
understand exactly what's going on here with this game. We are seeing player retention on a scale that we haven't seen since Helldivers 2, and even still then, it's beating out what was a worldwide phenomenon at the time.
Well, in Helldivers 2, you had to pay for that game. It wasn't free. Marvel Rivals is free to play. I think it has like 350,000 people playing it on average on Steam, which is really, really good. Especially, I think it's been a month about that it's been out. I mean, it's held about the same amount of players. We can look at the numbers after.
4 new playable characters, 3 new maps, new match types, all kinds of new content that's coming into the game. This game is a major disruption for not only the AAA industry, but also just the live service industry across the board because, well, it's a game that's serving its fans. It's meeting the demands of its audience, and that kind of goes against the creed of many live service games that are out there. They don't really like to give us too much.
Yeah, like, for it being free to play, I think you get to play all the characters. You don't have to buy any characters. It's all cosmetics at the moment. Which, I mean, most games like this are all cosmetic, but you don't have to buy characters. You could just play all the characters. I think Season 1 dropped earlier this week, or late last week. It dropped Mrs. Fantastic and Mr. Fantastic, or Miss Fantastic, whatever. Like, a lot of people are playing Mr. Fantastic.
We usually like to drip feed things a little bit, and it ends up, well, upsetting the fans, and that's one of the reasons why this game is getting so much support. Imagine listening to your audience. Such a foreign topic nowadays. We're now hearing rumblings, or rumors at the very least, that there's a PvE mode that's in development as well, so we're going to talk about that.
That's what Overwatch 2 was missing, was a PvE mode. I remember playing it a little bit with one of my buddies, but it was like a beta for it, and then I never played again after that because I think they took it out. I don't think they were keeping it in.
Imagine Blizzard would be in shambles if they actually released one. That would be...
Yeah.
NetEase,
they
you
needed
could do
to
the
have
funniest thing. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about all things Marvel Rivals, from the new content to its future to those that would stand in the way of its success, and why this game is going to be a problem many can't ignore. We are now 1 month out from the launch of Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, about
The
a
game
month,
hasn't
like I
shown
said.
any signs of slowing down or stopping. Historically, when we see a popular game release, live service or not, we tend to see the game surge in the week of its launch, and then players that aren't interested in the game start moving on, and the player count kind of
This is
falls
a
to
new
find
character,
its
Mrs.
dedicated audience.
Fantastic.
However, in the case of Marvel Rivals, we're seeing the opposite. We're just now a month.
And the character
after its
models,
launch,
all of them
and
look
we're
really,
seeing
really
the game
good.
hold over 400,000 concurrent players on.
Oh my gosh. Almost 500,000 people on Steam. Excuse me, jeez. On Steam alone? That is crazy. Absolutely crazy.
On Steam, less than 50,000 down from its peak. Just to put that into perspective, when Helldivers 2 lit the internet on fire earlier last year, its release surged up to 458,000 players and then dropped to 334,000 players after its first month, losing 30% of its players from its peak. Marvel Rivals.
Wow. Well, and you also had to pay for Helldivers 2. I think it was like a $40 game when it came out. I'm pretty sure it was a $40 game.
Has lost 9. That is absurd, because that means that this game is either replacing players that are leaving the game with new players that want to try it out at a near 1-to-1 ratio, or the players aren't leaving the game, which likely it's probably a blend of the two. Players are actually sticking around to keep playing the game, and the players that are leaving are getting replaced with new players. And there's a lot of reasons for this game's continued popularity. One of the reasons for this, I think, is that the game is being consumed so much on social media. While I know that there's a lot of people that are out
I'm
there...
sure
that don't
everyone's
think
posted
social media
clips.
presence of a game is indicative of its success or its player base. From my perspective, the more people that are consuming content around the game, the more people that are playing it. On Twitch...
Yeah, I didn't download this the first, 2 weeks, but I saw so many clips of people doing really well. We're talking about how good the characters are, That was the only reason I was like, okay, I'll download it and play it. And then I actually really liked the game.
Game released, it surged up to 227,000 viewers, many of the biggest channels receiving sponsorships, and some players were just interested in playing the game, and now it's sitting at an average of 100K viewers daily, making it one of the top categories on the platform. YouTube videos covering the best plays, the best players, tier lists, and gameplay are totaling millions of views.
So many videos about
Twitter and Reddit are overflowing with fan art and cosplays of the game's heroes. Both the ranked and casual modes in Rivals are thriving, which honestly is pretty rare to see. The casual mode is drawing in all types of players, whether they're just here for fun or just don't want the pressure of ranked.
I've had so many people talk crap to me in the social games, though. Like, we got all bots on our team, and I, like, do better. But there was a couple games I sucked. But I was like, I don't know what to do.
Ranked matches at the exact same time, the ranked mode is keeping the competitive crowd engaged with plenty of players that are grinding to climb the ladder, participating in tournaments, and all kinds of different things. The game is offering something for everyone, and that's why it's working so well. Now the game is getting its first major update with Season 1, featuring 4 new characters in the Fantastic Four. Susan Storm and Mr. Fantastic are up first, and then in the second half of the season, we're going to see the other 2 characters. We're also getting new maps with this.
Yeah, so they dropped
Forum
the 2.
and Midtown that are going to drop in the first half, and Central Park in the second half. Plus, there's going to be new game modes and objectives, keeping things fresh for the players. And the whole time that they've been developing all of this new content for the game, the developers have been, well, genuinely listening to player feedback, engaging with their community directly, tackling issues in the game, balancing performance issues with characters like Hawkeye and Hela, and bringing up lesser characters like Cloak and Dagger. They've been cooking. Now we have a prominent leaker for Rivals at Rivals Info on Twitter who's been digging around the game files and has shown off a lot of skins that hadn't made their way into the game and then later did, and more skins that we're likely going to see in the future. Recently, they shared that they discovered project files for PvE content that's either in development or was cut from the game. While we have no
They gotta come out with the PvE content.
Word on what the status of this potential PvE mode is, if Blizzard saw potential in it, then likely NetEase has as well. And honestly, it would be the funniest thing ever if they actually implemented meaningful PvE into the game where Overwatch failed to do so. This is something that genuinely could attract a completely different audience into the game and also give more players a reason to stick around. Now, what's truly fascinating about all of this is that most modern live service games would never and could never deliver on this sort of content or be this ambitious, especially for free. Most live service games, especially shooters, ignore any issues that are in their games.
I like that
Maybe
skin.
they will throw in a single
For Iron
player
Man. I
map
play Iron
or
Man a lot.
minor changes to existing ones. They'll occasionally drop a new character or weapon. Apex Legends, as an example, just revealed their update at the exact same time as Rivals announced their first season, and all they're offering is cosmetics. Overwatch 2 did the exact same thing. Well, watching a mass exodus from their game, they chose to release recolors of existing skins to try to entice players back to their game. Reading through some of the comments on these announcement videos, you can see an outcry from fans begging them to fix issues within their games, livid that the games that they've invested so much in won't invest in them or even try to fight back against new competition that has stepped into the market. This kind of goes back to a broader topic that I've discussed in the past many times on this channel by now, but many of these modern live service games just don't have the respect for their audience that's necessary to keep players happy or to keep them around. Each update only serves to increase their bottom line by introducing more microtransactions and cosmetics rather than meaningful content or addressing player concerns or just general issues within their games. I mean, look at the state of Call of Duty right now. While Black Ops 6 was received pretty well at launch.
I heard Call of Duty has so many issues right now, and it's lost like 50% of its player base. That's gotta be insane. For how popular Call of Duty is, isn't that like one of the most popular FPSs?
Launch is reportedly lost over half of its players, and it's getting worse by the day. All of this is driven by the fact that players aren't satisfied. They watch as these studios continue to deliver the exact same thing. Nothing changes. There's no advancement. They won't fix issues within their games. They let cheaters run rampant, yet they have no problem releasing cosmetics and new battle passes. This sends the signal to the players that your experience or your enjoyment don't matter. Only your money does. The biggest threat to the video game industry is the fact that players have learned how to vote with their wallets, and I just love to see it. I love to watch them struggle, and the struggle is going to get real pretty soon here.
Yeah, pretty soon, because there's a lot of people that didn't buy Dragon Age of Elgard because of some of the stuff with that game. Or Dragon Age 2, I think I heard. Not Dragon Age. What was it? There was another game. There's been a couple games that people just haven't bought, and it shows people, oh, we don't like your game, or oh, why are you doing all these microtransactions? Like, I don't know. It's crazy. It's only going to get worse, I bet, before it gets better.
Here, you have to respect where the money comes from, and many of these studios have lost sight of that. And I think it's just because they've got so comfortable sitting in their sweet offices, sitting back, drinking their, bottle of water with waifu stickers all over it and saying, these idiots, they'll buy anything. They'll still play it. And they're right, because we're impulsive creatures. It's what we do. But what ends up happening when the game across the street treats us better? You didn't think about that, did you? Anecdotal, I know, but I loved Warzone when it first released. I had so much fun playing it. A lot of people get pretty nostalgic about Verdansk, but
I played a lot of Warzone when that first dropped, and that was like one of my favorite things. Me and my buddy Android Merc would play that a lot when we were streaming back on Fridays. And oh my gosh, we'd play and we'd win one game every once in a while. That game was really hard to get wins in compared to like Fortnite or something, for us at least. Well gosh, we never won Fortnite games either. But we did a few here or there. But I remember like OG Warzone was so fun.
I also clearly remember how many issues that game had, how often they would go unalleviated, and how easily they would introduce microtransactions and skins and battle passes. How many times the stim glitch came back into the game, skins that would release that would make players invisible. There's like the one time that they had like the helicopter glitch, and then they fixed it, and then it made another glitch happen, and then another one, and then another one. It went on for like 3 months.
So I didn't deal with a whole lot of glitches, but on where he touches on, they would just release skins all the time. Before Black Ops 6, I was playing MW3. I think it is Modern Warfare 3. Right, was the last one. Before that, I was playing multiplayer, and they would come out with new skins every week. I bought one that I really liked. It was like the sloth with the like joint and stuff, like freaking cool, right? And then the next week they came out with like Cheech and Chong, and I was like, why? What the heck's going on? Like, it was crazy. They had so many skins come out every week.
Meanwhile, they never did anything about any of the cheaters in the game. Warzone today still suffers from those same issues. It's the same story because none of those things ever get fixed because they're never a priority, because the players are not a priority. We are the afterthought. It is our money that is the first thing that they want.
Right.
And the only way they can get that is through microtransactions.
They just want money with micro.
If these games are not in the state that they need to be, and you're not feeding the players with good enough content, they're not going to stick around, and you're not going to get the microtransactions if we're not playing the game. That's kind of how this works. When I look around the games industry right now, I see a lot of these live service studios that have gotten fat and comfortable and greedy.
Yeah, they
don't want, it's like I said before, all they want to do is take. And the only time that they ever want to give back is when their backs are up against the wall. And Marvel Rivals is about to line them all up.
Oh, yeah.
Too many live service games are doing the absolute bare minimum.
All they have to do is make like a really good MMO now. Because they made, like, they would kill World of Warcraft. If it's not already killing itself. I don't know how busy that game is still. I don't know how many people still play it. But, like, PoE, when that came out, PoE 2 came out, no one's playing Diablo 4 now. And then now that Marvel Rivals came out, nobody's playing Overwatch 2. So, they just need one good, solid MMO. And then they're not going to have anybody playing their games.
While squeezing their players dry with microtransactions and cosmetics, while ignoring real issues within their games. That is the reason why Marvel Rivals is seeing such an outpour of support, is because the players feel like they're heard, they're getting content that's worthwhile to them, and the game has
so much content.
It's as simple as that. It's a company that respects where the money comes from and knows what the players want and are delivering on it. Sadly, there are those that would like to stand in the way of that. In an article written by Jade King titled "Marvel Rivals has too many heroes for its own good," they go on to detail a litany of issues that they have with the game.
There are a ton of heroes, but I don't see that as being necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it would suck if you could only play as half of the characters. I wouldn't even play it, to be honest. Like, I played Overwatch 2 so long. They had a lot of characters there too, and you could play all of them, but this one has so many more characters from the start. Like, I probably wouldn't even be playing it, honestly, if it didn't have everything up front.
And why they believe it should take notes from Overwatch. Jade writes, Marvel Rivals arrived with one hell of an impact, but as the dust clears, some obvious flaws are now plain to see. The lack of role queue is one major omission.
No.
It is already making effective team play an impossibility when playing with...
It's so annoying if you have to be locked into, like, a certain class. Like, the whole point is so you can just play the game and have fun, especially in social. Like, maybe in like, competitive, I can see that. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Strangers. Unless you want to switch to Vanguard or Strategist of your own accord to salvage an ailing match, you'll end up losing. This is a problem with Overwatch 2, but role queue has made it much easier for you to form teams you know have a decent chance of winning if you work together. No Limits asks you to throw this aside for some chaotic fun where emerging victorious doesn't matter, but in Marvel Rivals, that is the only way to play, so it's impossible not to criticize. Right now, I spend games playing support out of obligation, preventing me from trying out other heroes. The lack of role queue isn't a flaw, it's the game's strength. Rivals gives players the freedom to play and adapt, rather than forcing them into a pigeonhole because they were too late to join a match or they were too late to pick a hero.
So me and my buddy Steve have been playing a lot, right? I got some videos coming out of us playing. I just got to put them together. But, like, he was playing Wolverine for a really long time, but then we weren't having any healers. And so I would switch. And then I'm not a great healer. I would try and just play support the best I can. But I was doing really good with Iron Man. And so he actually switched to healer. I think he switched to Cloak and Dagger. And he's like, oh, wow, I actually kind of like the healer. Because nobody would freaking heal on any of the games we were in. So that's like, at that point, I would just play healer, right? And let someone else probably play Iron Man or whatever. That's just who I really liked so far, was Iron Man. And I was getting okay with Spider-Man. He's really hard to use, though. He's like a 5-star on the difficulty scale. But yeah, when my buddy Steve switched to healer, he was actually doing really well and keeping me alive even in the air. Like, it was great.
Meanwhile, Overwatch 2 has made people miserable with its role queue, and players have been complaining about it for years. This reeks of somebody that's trying to drag Marvel Rivals down to Overwatch's level of mediocrity. Yeah. If they can't see that freedom is exactly what makes this game great, then they're complaining just for the sake of it. From my perspective, not every game has to be specifically tuned so that you can roleplay as an esports player in your 30s. I've seen many people posing the question as to why Marvel Rivals is succeeding right now, and Tim Sweeney put it perfectly: fun. That's the reason why people are playing this game, and trying to bog it down with competitive tools isn't going to make it any better.
It's actually a lot of fun.
I don't know about everybody else, but I am sick and tired of every single third-person and first-person shooter becoming a toxic sweat fest. I'm average at these kind of games. I know I'm not that good at them.
I'm not good at these
I just like to have fun playing them. The vast majority of people are average or below, and catering to the competitive end of these games is exactly how you push out the average player. The writer then goes on to discuss how Marvel Rivals is a hero shooter built on one of the most iconic licenses in gaming, but argues that the game being free-to-play creates an unrealistic expectation for players to simply enjoy being the heroes without needing to learn complex mechanics and understand their roles. They complain that the game's focus on mechanical skills disrupts the power fantasy that would be enjoyed by single-player games like Spider-Man or Batman, where the challenge is just personal gratification. The conclusion that the writer comes to is that even during its beta period, the roster was stacked with a staggering number of playable heroes and villains to choose from. In the lead-up to its launch, more additions were confirmed for the roster, making it hard to determine who I would main and if I would even have enough time to learn the ins and outs before their release. Turns out that I didn't. And now the sheer act of playing
There's
Marvel
so many
Rivals is
characters.
daunting. Once again, I find myself comparing it unfavorably to Overwatch. Overwatch launched with 21 heroes, while Rivals stepped out of the gate with 33, just 11 shy of how
33 characters, and they all were free.
many Overwatch 2 has now. And it isn't an original universe, as it has decades of media to draw from when it comes to its roster, but that also means that there is less potential for future additions, and some of its biggest names can't be capitalized on because they've been here the entire time. For the first few years of its existence, Overwatch turned each new hero into a legitimate event. You would follow each update and tease with fervent anticipation, waiting to find out exactly what role they might fill and what they would look like. This won't happen when Rivals add Sentry. Every new hero was unexpected, but for Rivals, it feels like we're already having to temper our expectations after NetEase jumped the gun on its A-listers. I could be proven wrong, but right now, I'm not very excited about new heroes coming to Marvel Rivals because we're already dealing with an excessive roster. There's no moderation and a desire to give players a temporary power fantasy instead of easing them into things. This will only hurt the game in the long run, and feeling that way right now isn't a good sign. The roster is daunting is a bit of a reach. Having a large roster might seem overwhelming, but the game's mechanics at a character level really aren't all that complicated.
Yeah, like you could pick a character and you could kind of predict how it's going to play, and it will usually play like that. Like Spider-Man plays just like Spider-Man. Wolverine, I think, plays similar to Wolverine. I haven't played him. Iron Man plays just like you'd expect. You can fly up above everybody the whole freaking time and just shoot down on them with your big beams. Like, it's so good fun.
The kits are designed to be easy to understand, so even if you're a new player, you can quickly grasp what each hero does. It's not about learning complex mechanics, it's about learning to get the feel for each character's abilities and how to figure out how to use those abilities strategically. This accessibility is what's allowing 20 plus million players to play the game right now, jump in and enjoy it right off the bat, despite having a large roster. I'm sitting here wondering whether or not this writer lives under a rock. This game's accessibility isn't hindered by its vast roster, it's enhanced by it. Marvel has thousands of heroes spanning different universes, eras, and realities. Of course, this game is going to feature some of the most iconic heroes to draw players in right out of the gate. That's exactly what people want, but we all know these characters. Everyone recognizes Spider-Man's web-slinging, Storm's weather powers, Wolverine's claws, or Iron Man's lasers. The familiarity with these characters is what makes this game so approachable for both fans that are casual players or hardcore players. And this isn't League of Legends where you have to sit back and figure out all these different intricate mechanics and how each one of these characters work from scratch. With Marvel Rivals, we already have a solid foundation as to what these heroes can do. Thanks to decades of media exposure, the diversity and depth of the roster is actually a huge part of the reason why players are flocking to this game in the first place, and pushing back against that would make this game not what it is. People have their favorite heroes, and the promise of even more of them is what keeps them excited. The idea that Marvel Rivals is going to somehow run out of recognizable or meaningful characters is it's fucking stupid. As an X-Men fan, I am offended by this. I'm losing my mind thinking about the potential for more X-Men characters to hit the roster. I mean, they could pump mutants into this game for years and still have more to come up with. Bishop, Deadpool, Rogue, Gambit, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Jean Grey. Hell, we can finally have a character in a wheelchair that actually makes sense.
You got me here, Magneto. The next move is yours.
I think.
What powers would that guy have? Would he be able to his ultimate would be able to control one of the other players on the team and make him do something?
The one thing that many writers and critics are getting wrong about this game, or at least the thing that I think that they're losing sight of, is that the vast majority of players that are coming to play this game are either fans of Marvel or they're just here for the fun and spectacle. That's why this game is so successful, and that's exactly what kind of game these developers set out to make. That's why they're delivering on players' needs. That's why players love this game so much. It's been a long time since I've seen a studio so dialed into what players want, and especially what they want out of the Marvel IP. I think people need to keep in mind that the Marvel IP has been used and abused so many times, and the reason why people are so excited about this game is because we finally have something that's using the Marvel IP that's actually good for once. I mean, the first skins that they produced for the two newest characters is Susan Storm as Malice and Reed Richards as the Maker. While the Fantastic Four have always been known characters, their evil alter egos are some of the most dark and obscure depictions in Marvel. I mean, the maker lobotomized Tony Stark for an Infinity Stone. These developers are so dialed into this game in a way that so very few studios are today, especially when it's not even their own IP. And it's only going to grow this game's audience from here. Rivals is giving players exactly what they want. Thick thighs, the freedom to enjoy the chaos, the power fantasy, and the excitement of Marvel's vast universe of characters. This isn't about appeasing competitive gatekeepers. It's about creating a game that everyone can feel like they can have a blast playing.
so everyone in those games
maybe
is saying
instead of
GG.
whining about too many heroes, the writer should realize that this is the kind of game that's keeping Overwatch awake at night. Because Marvel Rivals is everything that Overwatch isn't. The idea that Rivals
so
is
much
somehow
better.
going to run out of gas just blows my mind. How do you have such little brand awareness and you call yourself an industry expert? I could make an entire 7-hour live stream discussing all the different heroes that they could potentially have in Marvel Rivals in the future. I actually should probably do that sometime. You guys should follow me on Twitch if you guys haven't. Catch me live. Maybe we'll talk about that one day. That'd actually be a really fun stream. There are so many characters in alternate universes and all kinds of different things that are out there with different moves and skill sets that they could be able to use in Marvel Rivals. I mean, you have Earth 1602. You could bring in all the 1602 characters, like the characters that are like from the 1600s, really cool additions, and their powers work a little bit differently and things like that. You could do
I'm not
Marvel
familiar with
Zombies
those
and bring in
characters.
some of these zombified characters because they also act quite a bit different and would play entirely different. That would be really cool. Age of Apocalypse, because that brings back some like ancient mutants and stuff. There's so many different ways that you could go around this and find so many different characters that are out there. I mean, if I was to show my power level, we could start talking about Omega level mutants. And in that case, they only have 2 out of the 16 known Omega level mutants in Marvel Rivals at this moment. If they add Legion, I might never play another video game. Incredible TV show, by the way. If you guys never watched Legion on FX, I would totally go watch it. It's such a joy to watch. They did such a good job with that TV show. But that's the thing. That's what makes this game so exciting and fun. It's because we don't know what characters are going to come, but we do know what those characters are likely going to play like because we have such a history with this brand, with this franchise. And especially the people that are, whether you're a huge fan of Marvel or whether you're somebody that has just, passively taken it in, you watch a couple movies, maybe you just really like the MCU and stuff like that.
I mean, we watched all the
You're still going to
movies.
be able to recognize the vast majority of these characters and know
I'm not like a
exactly what they're
diehard
going to
fan.
do. It's not like you're going to be like Iceman. I wonder if he shoots fire. Quicksilver. I wonder what his power is.
Yeah, you know what every character is going to do pretty much, or really, really close,
Most of the characters are self-explanatory, which makes the barrier to entry for this game damn near non-existent. It makes it so easy to get into, and everybody has their favorite characters, so you get to sit back and wait and hope to see if your favorite one comes in, or maybe if your favorite character's already in the game, you're just waiting to see, maybe I'll start learning about some of these other ones, and then you start maybe reading some of the older comics and stuff like that. That's what makes this so cool. I mean,
Yeah, sorry. One thing about that to touch on is just, like, I've only watched all the movies maybe once each, and we watched some of the newer ones in theaters. But, like, even if you just watch every movie once or just in passing, like, you know what all the characters are going to do, or pretty dang close, like he's saying.
I mean, for me specifically, I am actually a legitimate hardcore Marvel fan, but I have not engaged with any of the media for years now because it sucked. I'm just going to be real. And there's going to be a ton of people that are going to agree with me because that's just the way it's been. But like old
Kind of like Star Wars, right? Recent Star Wars hasn't been great, at least the movies.
X-Men, like X-Men 97 and stuff like that, the old comics, even the original first set of MCU movies up to Endgame, kind of. I liked Endgame. I think it was still a really good movie. There's just certain things that I wish they would have done. It just sucks because the IPs were split, so you couldn't have the X-Men in with the Infinity War, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the X-Men played a huge role in the Infinity War in the comics, and you guys probably don't really care about any of that stuff. But there are people that do,
No, that
and
makes
because
sense.
of that, they haven't been engaging with the brand whatsoever, and this game is one of the first uses of the IP in a long time that effectively use it in a way that makes you want to engage with it and gets you excited about its future. And that's why people are loving this game. So trying to criticize the game for having too many characters, you're out of your mind. That's like saying that people wouldn't have liked Marvel versus Capcom. Did that have too many characters for you?
That a ton, I think.
If there is one thing that I've learned, and this is probably the one thing that makes me really hopeful about this game's future, really optimistic about this game's future, is that a lot of these Eastern studios, the minute that they strike gold, they throw all of their weight behind it. They don't try to, scam the players and try to drag them along. They just throw everything they can at them the minute that they get their hands on it, and it's why players keep playing their games. Look at Black Myth Wukong. The game comes out, it gets incredibly successful. They start patching it, fixing some issues in the game, but then they start adding in a boss rush mode.
I heard a lot of really good things about Black Myth Wukong. I just never got into it, I guess. I really should have, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. I need to play that on stream soon.
Pay for that? No. They added another character for you to be able to play as in a certain area or something like that. I haven't gotten around to do that. I think it's like the Tiger Guy or something like that. But they didn't have to do that. They just do it because they appreciate the fans, and they want to show those fans that they appreciate them supporting them. And that's how these games continue to be successful. I think Stellar Blade's another really good example of that as well, right? They did a lot of collabs and skins and stuff like that they threw into the game, and I know that's something that those players definitely appreciate. And just like how I appreciate Sue Storm as Malice. Good Lord. I'm not really somebody that likes to buy microtransactions, but when it comes to this game, they are doing a damn good job.
Yeah, I want to buy a skin or two for sure.
Putting me in harm's way, or at least my wallets for that course. Speaking of harm's way, few of you guys know this, but I actually do live in the Los Angeles area, so I might end up being evacuated or on fire. Let's hope neither. This might,
man.
Depending on how things go, who knows?
Safe.
This is really one of the only ways for me to say anything to anybody. If something happens for whatever reason, I'll be uploading in a while. Let's just hope that it doesn't, because I really just don't want to have to deal with that. I'm lazy, man. I don't want to leave. Like if it's a fire, like maybe like 2 houses down, I'll think about leaving. Anyway. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'm going to move out of California. That's all I got for today. Follow me on Twitch. Catch me live. Follow the Twitter, like the video, all that stuff. See you guys later. Peace.
Family, 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 family.